Hi friends, today we are discussing ICSE Board 10th Standard English Literature. When great trees fall, question and answers. Here question number 1. What is the central theme of the poem When Great Trees Fall? The central answers. The central theme of Maya Angelou's poems When Great Tree Falls is the impact of loss and drift, and how the human spirit can find resilience and hope of the face of adversity, loss and drift. Here key point is the impact of loss and drift. And question number 2. How does the poet describe the impact of the trees falling? In Maya Angelou's poem When Great Trees Fall, the poem describes the impact of the tree falling by describing the effect on a surrounding environment and the small creatures that live there. The impact on the environment. The fall of a tree shakes rocks on distant hills, causes lions to crouch, and prompts elephants to seek shelter. The impact on small creatures curl up in silence, too shocked to be scared. And question number 3. What do the great souls represents in the poem? In Maya Angelou's poem When Great Tree Fall, the great souls represents the influential people, leaders or figures who have a significant impact on society. The poem uses the metaphors of great trees to represent the great souls who have a outside's impact on the world. And question number 4. What emotions are evoked by the imaginary of the trees falling? The imaginary of a tree falling in Maya Angelou's poems When Great Trees Fall evokes emotions of grief, despair and anger. Grief, the poem describes the speaker's grief over the loss of a loved one and how the loss affects the speakers and their surroundings. Despair, the speakers may feel despair as they are in a cold, dark cave after realizing the loss. Anger, the speaker may feel anger because they feel their life has become void without the loved one. And question number 5. How does the poet link nature to human experience in the poem? The poet draws striking comparisons between the falling of a great trees of the loss of a person, making it very symbolic. When the great soul disperses, the effect are felt deep and far. Just like the lion's hunger, the people to react to the loss of life with fear and the pressing need to hide away to safety. And question number 6. What does Maya Angelou means by great souls die? In her poem When Great Trees Fall, Maya Angelou uses the phrase when great souls die to convey the idea that the loss of a loved one can feel like the world has become sterile and hostile. The poem suggested that the pain of loss can be all consuming, but the survivors can find the peace and acceptance by the remembering the contributions of the persons they lost. And question number 7. How does the poem convey the sense of loss? Maya Angelou's poem When Great Trees Falls conveys a sense of loss in a number of ways, including the metaphor. The poem uses the metaphors of falling the tree to represents the loss of great people and the impact this has on the world. Shock and numbness. The poem describes the initial shock and numbness of grief that can follow the loss of a loved one. Question number 8. What is the effect of the phrase "Eyes lighter now" in the poem? The Maya Angelou's poems "When Great Trees Fall." The phrase of "our eyes briefly see with the hurtful clarity" conveys the initial shock and numbness of grief. The poem uses the metaphors of a tree falling to describe the impact of losing a loved one. The phrase "our eyes briefly see with their hurtful clarity" describes how the memory is sharpened and examined, that kind words that were never said and the promised walks that were never taken. Question number 9. How does the poet describe the feeling after the loss of great souls? Metaphorically, the poet draws a striking comparisons between the falling of great trees to the loss of a person, making it very symbolic. When a great soul departs, the effect are felt deep and far, just like the lions hunkers peoples to react to the loss of life with fear, and the pressings need to hide away to safety. Question number 10. What significance does the phrase "reduced to whisper" have in the poem? In Maya Angelou's poems "When Great Trees Fall," the phrase "reduced to whispers" appears in the line "our senses restored, never to be the same, whispers to us." The phrase conveys the idea that the sense of the speakers are restored but never the same after the death and a great persons. Question number 11. How does Angelos use metaphors to convey the impact of loss? In Maya Angelou's poems "When Great Tree Falls," the speakers uses the metaphors of a great tree falling to convey the impact of loss. The title of the poems compare with the loss of a great person to the falls of a great tree in a forest. The setting, the first two sentences of the poems use a metamorphical settings to describe how the loss of a great person affect everything around them. The impact of metaphors implies that when influential peoples pass away, their impact is felt and their absence leaves a void. Question number 12. What is the tone of poems "When Great Tree Falls"? The tone of Maya Angelou's poems "When Great Tree Fall" is one of the hope of and renewal, with the sense of solace and inspiration. The poem's tone is established through its use of language, imagery, and repetition. Tone overall hopeful and renewing, with the sense of solace and inspirations, imaginary, profound. Imagery, language, lyrical. Languages, repetitions, use of repetitions to convey the cyclical natures of life and death. How does the poem suggest a sense of renewal or continuations after loss? The poem "When Great Trees Fall" by Maya Angelou suggested a sense of a renewal or constitutions after loss of the following ways. Hope. The poem's ends offers hopes to those who have experienced loss. Identifications. The speakers identifies with others who have lost loved one, which can make readers feel less alone. Better self. The speaker claims that she can be better because of the great one who existed. And question number 14. What role does memory play in the poem? What role does the memory play in the poem? In Maya Angelou's poem, when great tree falls, memory plays a role of the poem by sharpening itself after a death of a great soul. Sharpened memory, the poem describes how memory suddenly sharpens after the depth of a great soul and examines words that were never said and walks to were never taken. Influence reality, the poem describes how the reality of the world is bounded to great souls and takes lives of us when they die. And question number 15. How does Maya Angelou use repetitions in the poems and what effect does it have? In Maya Angelou's poems, when great trees falls, the poem's themes of the impact of great peoples on the world around them is conveyed through the metaphors of tree falling. The impact of great peoples, the peoples implies that the great souls have a significant impact on the world around them, reshaping cultures in life and death. The fall of a great tree can shake up an entire the landscape, just as a loss of a great person can impact the lives of those around them. The journey to healing, the poems highlights the importance of acknowledgement, the influence of those who have passed, and the journey to healing and resilience in the face of loss. And thanking you. So overall 15 question answers based on that when great tree falls. The important questions it will come May exams in futures. Based on that question and answers I explained with you and I shared with you. If you doubt means any, put the comment box and please subscribe the channels. Thanking you.